South Sound Seniors, a program for and about older adults in our community. And first of all, this January, we just wish you a wonderful, happy new year. Hope you're looking forward to 2019. And before we really get into the show, a big thank you to everybody here at Thurston County Media, the volunteers, the staff that make this show possible. We really just appreciate our partnership with them. Last year, I should say, I went to a providers meeting that's hosted by the Area Agency on Aging, and one of the presenters there was a wonderful man and a very good presenter, Jonathan Fork from the NorthWest Justice Project, and I asked if he could join us and tell us a little bit about what he does and a little bit of the information that you were able to give about the NorthWest Justice Project. So really, thank you for being here tonight, Jonathan.
Thanks for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
All right. So first of all, if you could maybe, again, tell me and tell the folks that are listening, what is the NorthWest Justice Project?
Sure. The NorthWest Justice Project is a statewide civil legal aid law firm. So we are basically like the public defender for civil cases only. However, in certain situations, in most situations, you don't really have a right to an attorney in a civil case. Civil cases are those types of cases that are non-criminal. And so we handle a variety of legal issues, consumer cases, housing cases, issues with public benefits, Social Security, Medicare, a whole range of cases that we do. And if you qualify for our services, it is generally free. And it's a great service that we continue to provide. And we have offices around the state. So wherever people live in Washington, they can have access to justice.
Which is just a wonderful thing, because so many people feel that they hear about the costs for legal assistance to go through a private attorney, and they just feel like, I could never afford that. So they oftentimes don't know where to turn if they're denied benefits or if they get into an issue with their housing rental situation or what have you.
Yes, that's correct. There is legal services tend to be expensive, but the NorthWest Justice Project can be a resource. Unfortunately, there are some income limits, some asset limits. It depends on household size. For seniors, the eligibility rules are somewhat relaxed. But the first step to get services from the NorthWest Justice Project is to call our central intake line called CLEAR. They're generally open from 9:15 to about 12:15. I don't have the 1-800 off the top of my head, unfortunately, but it's readily available.
Well, let me tell you, the wonderful thing that happens around here is our amazing producer, Tom Patton, when we talk about a number, if he has it after the production, he puts it right down there on the screen. So
great.
He can look up the 1-800 number and put it right on the screen so people have it while we're talking.
That's great. So yes, CLEAR, it's a centralized intake line. Folks call it. You have to be persistent, unfortunately. There do get a lot of calls.
Some days it's probably harder to get through than other days.
And you speak to a screener who takes down information, discusses just generally what the issue is. If you qualify, you get passed on to talk to an attorney or a paralegal, or you get referred out to other organizations or services that are more suited or appropriate to those legal needs. So even if you somehow don't qualify for our services, or if you don't, just simply by calling CLEAR and being persistent and getting through, you could be pointed to the right direction.
Right, they can link you up with where you need to talk. So now, how did you get to the NorthWest Justice Project? How long have you been there, and what was your journey? What brought you there?
Well, I have been at NJP since the end of May of this year, so it's about 6 months now. But I've been a civil legal aid attorney basically for my whole career. I started out in Alaska, specifically in Utqiagvik, which is also known as Barrow, Alaska, which is the northernmost town in the United States. Then I moved to Anchorage.
That's an adventure.
And then to NJP. But I've always done civil legal aid. It's what I'm interested in practicing, and it's great. Great variety, and you just feel good at the end of the day.
Right, that you've helped people get to the justice part of
Right.
the program. Yeah. Well, so can you give me like a couple of examples of people you've helped, so it makes it a little bit more clear to our listeners, you know, what type of things you really are able to help with?
Well, again, we do deal with a wide variety of cases. And each attorney in our office, the Olympia office, handles cases in Thurston, Lewis, and Mason counties. And each attorney sort of has their own area of practice. So we do have a housing and consumer law attorney, and she handles cases involving landlord-tenant disputes. So for instance, if someone is on a voucher or housing assistance and they're about to be evicted for non-payment of rent or some other issue, she might be able to address that. I work in the area of public benefits and with seniors specifically, also with youth and education issues. So, for instance, we have cases coming in for Social Security overpayments or issues involving Medicare and Medicaid, denial of long-term care services, someone who might need to go into long-term care or need in-home care by paid providers and they're not getting enough hours. That could be something where an attorney might be helpful. If you've been denied services, if your hours are reduced, for instance, you do have appeal rights. And that's another area where an attorney or legal advocate might be useful to represent your interests in an appeal of that denial. We also have family law attorneys, so people who have custody issues involving domestic violence. Those are cases that are priority for the office. And an attorney who's specifically geared towards helping crime victims. And another attorney who is mostly focused on Lewis County. So whatever your legal issue is, if it's not criminal, is the chances are that we can handle it.
But criminal, yeah. So how many attorneys actually work with you at the NorthWest Justice Project in the Thurston, Mason, Lewis area?
There are 6 attorneys in our office. We do serve those 3 counties. I believe, I'm not sure, so don't quote me on this number. I think there might be 150 or so attorneys within the law firm spread throughout the state.
Wow. So what motivates an attorney to work for something like the NorthWest Justice Project rather than making big bucks as a private attorney?
Well, again, I believe it has to be the passion for the work, to address the access to justice issues, people who aren't able to afford a lawyer, and the consequences that, people believe that criminal cases, you have a right to an attorney because the consequences of a criminal case are so dire, but civil cases, you face similar issues. Losing a house, losing your home perhaps it's not as serious as going to prison, but it can be very stressful and have consequences on your health, on all kinds of collateral consequences on your family. So that passion for working towards justice, addressing the justice gap, and working with our clients. They're all wonderful people, and they're dealing with stressful situations.
that they're very appreciative of the help that you're able to give them.
Yes.
Yeah. So at senior services, we often run into kind of that, it's kind of like a gap area. So when people are a senior, whether you define that as 60 and older, 62 and older, 65 and older, there's a little bit more access to some assistance. But there's a lot of people in that pre-60 area, like 55 to 60 or 50 something to 60, that try to apply for assistance, maybe supplemental Social Security or disability issues. Is there anything that the NorthWest Justice Project can do to help people that are trying to get disability that have been denied?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, helping seniors is a priority for the office, but we're not specifically a senior service provider. We take all ages and all issues. Again, there is unfortunately a resource issue. We can't take every case that is referred to us. And so there are a list of priorities that we do have to take into account.
Sure.
But if people are facing termination of their disability benefits or SSI or need income, all I can say is give the Clear Line a call, see if you qualify, and at the very least, you can have someone take a look at the case. And if you do need further assistance, and it meets within the priorities of the office, it can be referred down to Olympia for further assistance.
Okay. So if somebody were thinking, well, I really need this help, and I'll call the Clear Line, the 1-800 number that I'm sure will be on the screen, what kind of facts and things should they have ready to talk to the person that will answer that line?
That's a good question. A lot of the times people don't know what the facts are, and our screeners are generally good about getting to the heart of the issue. People are feeling a lot of stress because they're facing the loss of their home, and a lot of the time they want to give their story, which is perfectly fine. And we're just sort of coming in generally at the very end of a very stressful situation, and so I find that people who need our help tend to tell their story, which is fine. It's great. I want to hear the story. And the screeners and the attorneys who work with Clear can focus the conversation. So I wouldn't say they need to be cognizant of specific facts they need to talk about, just tell their story.
And the person will get the facts that they need to see if they qualify for assistance.
And I will say that if you need further assistance, particularly in the realm of disability or public benefits or anything really, consumer cases, having documents is always very important. Attorneys love to review documents, so if there are documents about your case, it's very likely that whoever you talk to at NJP or elsewhere will ask to review those.
So they don't have to necessarily have them when they call, but it's good to have a file if they get through that screening and get to speak to an attorney eventually.
And that's not to say, I mean, I understand a lot of people, normal people don't keep documents. Social Security or other agencies send letters every week, it feels sometimes, and it can get a little overwhelming. So don't let that be a hindrance to stopping someone from trying to call and access services.
Okay, so there might be somebody out there thinking, okay, so this is free for the people who qualify. So how is it funded? How does the NorthWest Justice Project get its funding? Because you probably have to eat and pay rent or what have you.
Well, we're a private nonprofit organization, so we're funded from a variety of grants and contracts and private donations. So people might think we're a state agency. We're not a state agency. We're funded by grants, both from the state and federal private donations, contracts, to provide certain work to certain populations like seniors or veterans. It all manages to work, and it's a great place to work.
So there's kind of an understanding by grantors or the federal government that there are people out there that are stressed and don't have access to legal assistance.
Right.
So that's how your agency gets the funding that is needed that then can reach out and help others. Wow. So sounds like to me you're saying the best thing for somebody to do who has an issue or concern is to call.
Yes. Also, well, keep in mind, however, we do have some income limits and asset limits. So unfortunately, we can't guarantee service.
Right.
But again, calling, being persistent, trying to get through, at the very least, someone can try and refer you to a place where you can get assistance for your issue.
Right.
And I did want to note, actually, for seniors in particular, there is a specific Clear Senior line, which is a different number.
Okay.
Sometimes it's possible if seniors do call that, it might be a little easier to get through.
To get through. Okay, so we'll find both the regular Clear number and then the Clear Senior number to display for folks. Okay.
Great.
And again, your big advice is persistence. Stick to it so that you can don't give up.
And we understand people might have barriers to, some people may not have telephones or access to a phone or access to the internet. We do have a local office here in Olympia. It's located at 711 Capitol Way South, Suite 704.
Okay.
And you can stop by, and we have a phone there, and you can try and speak to an attorney. Well, generally, attorneys have a lot of commitments on their time. So you might not be able to speak to an attorney, but someone might be able to help you access the services that you need.
Okay, great. Well, Jonathan, I appreciate, I know you're a busy attorney and you're able to come out and take some time this evening to help tape our January show. And you also took time out in the middle of the day last month to educate some of the senior providers in the community about your services. So thank you. Have you kind of become the marketing outreach person, or?
Community engagement is a great priority for our organization. So we always try and reach the communities that we serve. And every attorney in our office and in our organization does it to a certain extent. So it's great to go out and meet people and to be on this show, and I really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you for taking the time. We appreciate it. And we hope that you got some good information about this, whether it was for you yourself or maybe somebody you know. We want those telephone numbers at Clear to ring off the hook if people are really in need and don't know how to connect to legal help. And the other thing that you stressed is even if the NorthWest Justice Project can't help, they may have resources or references for a person to call and some help. Direction to give to somebody that's kind of baffled where to turn.
There is also an online resource. It's washingtonlawhelp.org, and that is a website that NJP maintains and coordinates, which has a lot of useful legal educational materials that people can just access if they have access to the internet or at the library. So even if Claire can't help you, or you're just curious, you can go to that website and educate yourself on your rights and legal issues that face people in their daily lives.
Again, that's
washingtonlawhelp.org.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank you so much.
You bet.